my thing is I'm going to sell us on. It's probably something I don't really need to sell a lot of people on because it's a freaking established film. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, okay.
No. Well, this isn't the 80s. If this was all horror
I
movies,
figured you were going to have like some weird clause.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the guy thought about it before he was born, about this time period.
Damien loved 80s horror. I'm not basing that on anything I know. I'm just using that as my defense. But
yeah, guys, Terrifier was in the 80s.
Don't give me ideas, Carter, because I will turn this ship around and I will do it. But no, The Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. We're in the middle of the 80s, pretty much. And the slasher genre in itself is just kind of starting to become clogged up by copycats and, everybody wanting to try to, because this was when 80s was with the boom of the VHS and rentals and shit like that. Like 80s horror was like king. So everybody was trying to get their dollar. And finally we had something somewhat new. It wasn't your basic slasher. We had Wes Craven, who has made some pretty fucked up movies back in the 70s. One movie that I still, to this day, I watched it. I will not watch anymore. Last House on the Left. I do not enjoy that film.
Well, that's a rough watch because
that's what I'm saying.
That's a rough.
I'm not a big fan of that kind of style of movies.
No, that's right up there with like I Spit on Your Grave.
I see no I see no entertainment in those. And so then he had Hills Have Eyes, which that kind of also, especially the remake kind of had some of its own moments. But his opus is The Nightmare on Elm Street. And Robert Englund, I mean, such a early, obviously this character wasn't where it becomes. So we're getting an early, version of Freddy where, he has he talks. That's another thing. A lot of killers at this time weren't really talking. There are a lot of dudes in masks killing people. So it was nice to have like the killer actually have some kind of personality. And the fact that we're in the dream world opens up so much opportunity to, well, that doesn't make sense because no, it's in the dream world. So anything could happen. And you don't sit there and be like, well, that doesn't make sense because in the real world, he can't, blah, blah, blah. No, it's in the dream world. So anything is plausible. That's the word I was trying. Like bounced in my head for a couple of seconds, and then I got it out of my lips. And Heather Langenkamp as Nancy. I'm gonna get on this similar bandwagon that I did with Sigourney Weaver and Ripley. Nancy was another towards the throughout some of the movies, she was kind of like the damsel in distress, if you want to go with that word, but she fucking kicked it into gear at the end. She did her research about how to fight, to set the traps and stuff like that. She wasn't one that was going to kind of sit back and let the killer come to me. I'm going to him. I'm going to pull him out of the dream because obviously we found out that was something that she could do. And I'm going at him. There's no more, I'm going to cower and get scared. I'm taking charge. And again, at that time, that was not a way that the final girl was portrayed. It was always seemed like it was just, kind of almost like they got lucky that she survived. She kind of got the killer off balance or whatever. It's kind of how they were portrayed before. But Nancy was the first, not first, but one of the first that kind of like, no, fuck, I'm taking control. I'm going after him. I'm not going to live my life in fear anymore. And the fact that she's like, turns her shoulder to him at the end is like, I'm not afraid of you. I take away every bit of power that I gave you. And then he's done. So the take charge approach to Nancy as a final girl was, especially at that time, was such a refresh. Like it was refreshing and visually amazing. There was just some, like, the freaking kill in the bedroom, pulled up the wall onto the ceiling. Genius.
So
just good. Everything about this, like, it's like visually just amazing. And like I said, performances. You got John Saxon. Fucking love me some John Saxon. Just everybody again knocks it out of the park.
Johnny Depp.
Oh,
is pretty much first role, kind of.
Yep.
And we get that kind of like early Swerve, who we kind of think one person is our, lead character, but then she gets wiped out in the first 10, 15 minutes of the film, and then we end up having Nancy. So there's like that little bit of a swerve at the beginning. Like, okay, this is kind of the first person we're introduced to when she's having her dream, Tina. And then we kind of follow her, but so we're like kind of not knowing, but then she gets killed. It's like, oh shit, okay. She's not your hero of the story. Nancy is. And just amazing. Like, it's another franchise that's such kind of hit and miss as other entries come. But like, I just think the originality of this film, it bringing a resurgence, even though slashers were still, in its infancy in the mid 80s, I mean, slashers really kind of had only been going around for not even around 10 years. Cause your first kind of slashers was kind of started in your mid 70s. So to get a new look at a different kind of slasher film when I think it needed it the most, when it was just getting so stale at that time, was just, like I said, a breath of fresh air for when it came out. Obviously I wasn't alive when it first came out, but I mean, just doing history, of movies and stuff like that, I just know that it's a big movie for its time period. And it was it allowed the slasher genre to kind of keep going and not get oversaturated. I mean, it was still getting oversaturated, but like, at least we were getting different stuff. And obviously, like, it's spawned on to be one of the most successful horror franchises of all time. But without this movie, we wouldn't have had any of it. So that's why that's going to be my last film of the 80s, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Great pick. Wes Craven classic, like you were saying, there's so many great elements to this movie. I never really thought about that beginning switch of like Nancy from, oh God, what's her name? I'm going to mess this up.
Heather Langenkamp?
No, who's the girl Tina. Yes,
yeah.
Tina. Like that switch, like, because we're introduced to Tina, and then all of a sudden, Tina's swirling around on the ceiling, done. And then Nancy steps into the shoes of the final girl. And I think that's a really cool bait and switch there. And that's a creative element. But also, this film did a lot of crazy special effects. I watched the behind the scenes of this, and like, it was a reverse set. So like, Johnny Depp is technically on like a ceiling, and his bed's on the ceiling, and the ceiling is on the floor. So like, they had to rotate and change. Like, it's insane, that amount of creativity. And during the 80s to do something like that is absolutely mind-blowing. And now we love this film. It's one of the best franchises in the horror world right now. It's just executed very well, and it's such a fun movie. Great cast, tons of blood, and to have somebody who's a slasher killer that's attacking only kids and not adults. Talk about taking a chance there.
Yeah.
Especially since they had to change the original idea from him being a child killer, a child molester, to a child killer, because there's too many things going on with that in the 80s. So
yeah,
just to be like, okay, well, he can't do that, but let's just have him whack off a bunch of kids. We can do that, right?
Don't say yes. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
No, this is definitely one I've truly enjoyed watching more than once. Like you said, John Saxon, Robert Englund. Like you look at all of it's always kind of fun for me to like go back and see everybody then become the well-known established actors later on down the road. You know, but I mean, for me, it's definitely like, yeah, it's a good story, but like, man, there was so much good work in these special effects, and it just, oh man, I think to me this is probably my favorite out of the run, and we get a little lost towards the middle, then we get like a good little like Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So there are good hit and misses throughout the franchise, but this is still my favorite. And I think it's mainly just because I'm introduced to a character again that I hadn't seen before, and England just delivered. But I can't really say like, yes, he's creepy, but even when he's like not being creepy, he just still has a way to like just raise your cackles. You know, like another one of those just he's got it kind of vibe.
So captivating on screen and anything he's in. I mean, anytime you see Robert Englund's name on something, you just know, even if it's a smaller part, big part, whatever, he's going to fucking steal the show. And I honestly can't think of, you know, I know there was that 2009, 2010, I think, the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. And God bless Jackie for trying to fill those really big shoes. But like, that
wasn't just him though.
I know it wasn't.
I think that was like a lot of working or writing. Like he was just in a bad spot.
Yeah, no, I heard that whole production of that movie was just a mess in general. But like, when I think of Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund pops up. His voice is in my head. Man gave me nightmares. Like, that's who I see as Freddy Krueger. I can't even imagine if they were to try to touch it today, I'd be like, I don't think you should.
And that's the hard part of characters like that, because like you can get different people to play Michael Myers, you can get different people to play Jason Voorhees, because there's not personality really. They don't talk. So when you got characters like Doug Bradley as Pinhead or Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, it's hard to not see them as that character. Them as that character. Like you can't really see anybody else. And both of them have had an attempt. Both have failed. Not, like I said, nothing against the person, you know, put in the makeup to do the character. It's just there's such a high ceiling from the original actor on that character that it's just a doomed mission to start.
Right.
Like there's no way you're going to be Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. Doug
like
Bradley
Kris was saying,
is Pinhead.
I've seen some like bad movies that happen to have Robert Englund do his guest spot on. That whole where you throw the no name or the well-known name in long enough to throw them on the cover of the film, and it was like, God, this is a horrible movie. I'm just here for Robert. Oh, thank God. And it was. Yep. It was like, oh, he delivered that. It was so okay. Now I'm back to the movie.
Yeah.
It just there are certain individuals like him that just highlight whatever moment they're in. You know, like we were talking about with Bruce Campbell. He just made Freddy creepy. He made him fun. Mm-hmm. And I'm about to get my ass kicked by some dude with long fingernails being sarcastic, but it seems like he's having a really good time. Like it's just an odd character, and I love it.
Oh yeah. Super fun. Freddy's hilarious. And like you were saying, it's like a lot of slashers or, you know, like even horror movies during that time, killers didn't really talk. And to not only talk, but like to be fucking funny the whole time. Like, you're like, damn, I'm getting killed, but can I laugh a little bit? Can I bust a gut?
Exactly.
It's a definitely unique. It's a definite unique character that you haven't really seen and done good, like much sense. It's just you can count them probably on one hand where there's a character that's similar to that, you know, aura, like they have kind of like the, can be funny, but also, dangerous, and it doesn't work that much. So that's another reason why I think it stands as such a big film of the decade.